Hello everybody, my name is RetroBoy03, and welcome back to another episode of Minifigure Spotlight. And judging by the title, I'm guessing that you can guess what this show is about. In this video, we'll be taking a look at Lord Voldemort as he appeared in LEGO Harry Potter sets from 2010 until 2017. And this was the first version of Voldemort that was released for the Harry Potter reboot in 2010. He first appeared in set number 4842, Hogwarts Castle. But then he later reappeared in set number 4865, The Forbidden Forest. From what I've heard, he was also in a promotional polybag, but I couldn't find any pictures of that online. That's just what Brickset says, so I can't verify that, but I'm guessing that it seems like it could have been the case. And I mean, like, for 2010, I think this is a pretty great-looking minifigure. Like, just the detailing on the face, I feel as though, is just really nice. Like, it's not the most complex thing, but I feel as though they got a really nice design. I feel as though they got the shaping of the face down really well, which is really weird when you consider that all minifigures have the same head shape, but I don't know. I feel as though the light gray lines really help to sort of shape up the top of his head as well as his jaw. I really like the shadowy effect they did with the eyes to have the multiple levels of gray around them. That just looks really nice. The nose slits are always something that I've thought was a bit off, but I feel as though, like, with the face layout they've gone with here, you do kind of need those, or else the mouth seems a bit too far down. Although really, if they wanted to change that, they could have just moved the mouth up, but I feel as though then it wouldn't have looked as much like Ralph Fiennes' portrayal of Voldemort. Because it feels so, like, again, the nose slits look weird on minifigures, since minifigures don't have noses to begin with, so printing a minifigure to not have a nose is just sort of odd, but again, I feel as though, like, not having that would make the figure look less like Ralph Fiennes, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, don't worry. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the mouth itself. I mean, I like the sort of yellowy teeth, although that is a little gross. But, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the smile. Like, I mean, I guess it works fine, but I would have preferred, I mean, I like this face, I guess what I'm trying to say is, this is fine, it looks good, but I would have preferred to get something else, like an angry face. Maybe if one of the sets he came in had this face, but then another one had, like, an angry face, I would have been fine, but, I mean, this is still fine, nonetheless. The torso print is pretty simple, but it looks nice. I like how at the top of his torso, for the bit of exposed flesh, that's not just plain white. They do actually have some light gray details in there, which are pretty hard to see, but you might be able to see it just basically for the top of his chest, which is very nice, and LEGO definitely didn't have to include that, since that's just such a tiny space at the top. And on minifigures where you have a lot more skin exposed at the neck, LEGO often doesn't do that sort of printing. Like with Jedi Masters, for example. But anyway, pretty much all the other printing on the torso is just some dark green wrinkles, as well as you can sort of see the line going down on the left side of the torso, or I guess his right, sort of show the division between the two sides of the robe. It would have been nice if that line had carried down onto the legs, but it's fine. As you can see, his accessory in both sets was this white lightsaber blade, of course designed to represent Voldemort's U wand, although I think it's kind of odd that in the Forbidden Forest set, they didn't come with the tan stick that represented the Elder Wand, since obviously by Deathly Hallows Part 2, or just by that scene, book or movie, Voldemort had the Elder Wand, so I think it's kind of odd that he still came with his original wand in that set, but anyway, yeah, this guy has no back printing, no second face, obviously, no printing on the back of his head. That's it for this Voldemort. At least it was until 2016, when we got this guy. Let's do a quick side-by-side comparison. So here we have the two versions of this Voldemort compared side-by-side. On the left, we have the 2010-2011 version, and on the right, we have the 2016 release from the LEGO Dimensions Harry Potter Team Pack. And you can instantly see a few differences. First off, the wand, I think it's really weird how for the Dimensions version, he just has a brown stick, Like, I feel as though the 3 long stick does look better than the 4 long stick. I mean, it's still definitely too big and just looks kind of bad, but it looks better. But I'm questioning the color here, because why is it brown? Like, I mean, really with I understand them going for the simpler colors in the original line to not overcomplicate things, but by dimensions, like, they could have easily, for dimensions, given, like, Harry the dark brown stick, Hermione like a gray or a tan one, and Voldemort really should have had this piece in white. Like, heck, the 3 long bar exists in white. Heck, in the game, Voldemort has a white wand, so I don't know what went wrong here, but... Oh, well, probably my least favorite difference between these guys is the face print. Remember how I praised the original version for having really nice design? And just looking really well done? Well, take a look at the 2016 one, and oh my. First off, remember when I was talking about how the nose slits were really important, or else the face would look off with how low the mouth is? Yeah, this one's even worse because they put the eyes lower than they should be on a normal minifigure, which could have helped, but then they put the mouth down on as well, to the point where I almost feel as though mine is just misprinted and it should be higher up, but I don't know. It's weird. Also, just the lines don't look as finely done. The teeth look much more simple. The eyes just look worse. The printing is just... It almost looks faded there. Like, the 2 grays blur together. None of the details are as sharp. The new head just looks bad. And then we have the torso, which updated the dark green lines for some lighter green lines, which, I mean, I guess makes the detailing easier to see, but... I mean, like, the dark green lines just worked better. They're supposed to represent, like, the subtle wrinkles in the fabric. Go look in the movie. I'm pretty sure Voldemort is wearing very dark green robes, to the point where I almost feel as though LEGO should have gone with dark green as the base color with maybe black as the accent. More on that in a minute. But no. And so we just have these super bright green lines that almost look like he's glowing, which is completely wrong. And you'd think that after 7 years of innovation, they would have been able to print the continuation of the robe just down onto the legs. Just have these 2 lines continue down and just slope off to the side. Not too difficult, but we don't get that. But we do get, yay, back printing that's always covered up by his cape and is literally just 5 green squigglies. I'm so glad. So yeah, if you can't tell, I'm not a big fan of the Dimensions figure. I think it's just really disappointing. Like, with Harry, I did prefer the 2010 version to the 2016 Dimensions version, but all that was different was the hair. So really, that's not too big a deal, but on Voldemort, I feel as though the 2016 one is just so much worse than the original, to the point where it's embarrassing. LEGO should be embarrassed by this figure. How could you mess up so badly when you've had this much time to improve, but instead you get so much worse? I mean, I understand that LEGO Dimensions wasn't the biggest moneymaker for LEGO, but honestly, wouldn't it have been cheaper to just reprint the original design instead of creating a new one? I don't know. This just really annoys me. But, yeah. So that's really all I have to say about Dimensions Voldemort. A complete and utter disappointment. I would say that I'm just disappointed, not angry, but that's a lie. I'm not just disappointed, I am also angry. Both. I don't know how this happened, and I really hope that something this bad never happens again in terms of an update. I mean, like, obviously stuff like this has happened before, and this isn't the worst thing ever. Like, 2005 Ron and Hermione were worse updates than this guy, but honestly, I feel as though this guy definitely deserved to make Just Too Good's top 10 worst LEGO remakes list. But by the way, check out Just Too Good. He's a much better YouTuber than I am. But anyway, enough about this guy. Just getting back to this Voldemort. One more appearance I should document. It isn't exactly a release of this figure, but I'll put it in here anyway. In the LEGO Batman movie, Voldemort did make an appearance as a villain, and interestingly, in the movie, Voldemort used his 2010 design instead of the 2016 design. Kind of odd. Definitely good, since obviously this is better, but I think it's kind of odd also how even though Ralph Fiennes voiced Alfred in the Lego Batman movie, he didn't voice Voldemort, which is just kind of odd, but oh well. But yeah, I do consider that more an appearance of this figure than an actual release, because obviously he didn't come in any of the sets, but yeah, just kind of an interesting thing. And if you're curious, in the LEGO Dimensions pack, the Batman movie story pack, it did use the Dimensions Voldemort, of course. But now it's time to talk about one of the more interesting parts of this segment, prototypes. Now, I don't get to talk about these very often. Well, prototypes or unreleased material in general, since obviously we don't know about a lot of LEGO prototypes, or just unreleased things. Now, a few have managed to slip through the cracks, like the Spider-Man wrestling scene, but there are also a few that LEGO has officially revealed, like, intentionally. For example, you may remember how in my video on the Casual Harry minifigure from 2010, how LEGO revealed in the Building the Magical World book that Harry was originally going to come in a cancelled set that would be Malfoy Manor. A similar thing has appeared with this Voldemort, where the book shows a prototype version of this minifigure that I actually kind of prefer. And while I really like this black design, and I feel as though, let me put it this way. I feel as though this looks better, but the other one looks more accurate to the movie, and I think it would have been cool to get, maybe a variant. Maybe the Dimensions version could have been used the color scheme of this prototype, but I'll just stop talking about it. I'll just show you. So here we are in the Harry Potter Building the Magical World book on the page about Voldemort, and here you can see the prototype for the 2010 minifigure, which appeared not just in this book, but also in the product images for the 4842 Hogwarts set. And as you can see, he, as I mentioned previously, would have been more accurate, has dark green for his torso and legs with black highlights, which I think look pretty cool. He also has a light gray cape, which is weird, but it almost looks from the top, if you look around his neck, like it might have been double-sided, like dark green on the outside and a gray on the inside, which would have been really cool to see and a really unique take, since LEGO rarely ever does colored capes, double-colored, So that would have been pretty cool to see, but yeah, just kind of an interesting thing to look at. Very rare we get to see LEGO prototypes and unreleased materials. This guy's cool to see. I'm curious if any of him still exist. I hope that somewhere someone still has this guy, but unfortunately, it's entirely possible that as a prototype he was destroyed. But I really hope that's not the case, since this guy looks really cool, and I hope that he resurfaces somewhere someday. If not as a released minifigure, which would probably never happen, since obviously now LEGO's rebooting the line, they would probably never go back to this older design to release a copy of a version of the figure that was never meant to be released. But I don't know, I think it would be cool to maybe see this guy as like a polybag, but even if he never gets released as an official minifigure, I would at least like to see where the prototype ended up. But that's enough about the prototype. Let's just get on to the final verdict, I guess. So that was the LEGO Dimensions Voldemort minifigure, as well as the original version also. Don't know why I said Dimensions Voldemort, but yeah. So, about this figure's rarity. This figure isn't one of the rarest Harry Potter minifigs ever, but it's not super common. Because, the two sets he came in one set that was $130, and then one set that was $13. So, if I'm correct, he is the most common variant of Voldemort LEGO's released, but he's still not super common, since the 2011 set, in particular the Forbidden Forest, didn't get as much distribution as the 2010 sets. I could never find the Forbidden Forest set, but then, I don't know, so if you can find this guy for a good price, I'd say get him. I'd say don't spend more than $20 on this guy unless you really like him. Now, would I say that the Dimensions version is a suitable substitute? I guess so. I have quite a few problems with it, but it's still a fine figure. It just definitely pales in comparison to the original version. But if you already have the original, would I recommend getting the Dimensions version? If you're into playing Dimensions, like I am. Like, I like the game. I got the pack for that reason, although, honestly, if I had thought about it, I probably would have just gone with the Hermione pack, since if you have Voldemort, you also have you also have Uniform Harry, so neither of them are really adding much to the experience. Hermione unlocks the Harry Potter Adventure World, and she's an exclusive minifigure in Dimensions, so I would just get her for Dimensions, but then, well, also Harry and Voldemort have Parseltongue, but I'm pretty sure that they gave that ability to, like, a Powerpuff Girl or something, because potatoes. So, yeah. Pretty sure that, like, Buttercup has Parseltongue. You can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. I know it was either a Powerpuff Girl or a Teen Titan that has the ability. You can tell me in the comments who it is. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have for this video, as it just hit my camera. Sorry about that. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Minifigure Spotlight, and I will see all of you in my next video. Farewell.